So today I'm talking about a P0113 code, what it is and how you go about fixing it. And so what is a P0113 code? Well, it's the intake air temperature sensor 1 circuit high input. And what does this mean? Well, the computer needs to calculate the air-fuel ratio mixture that's going into the cylinders. And to do this, it needs to know how much air is going into the engine and the type of air that's going into the engine. And so the computer is going to use different sensors to have this information. And one of these sensors is called the intake air temperature sensor that basically just reports back to the computer the temperature of the air that's going into the engine. And since hot air is more dense than cold air, the computer can adjust the air-fuel ratio mixture that's going into the engine. And when you get a P0113 code, for some reason the computer's seeing a problem with this, and so it's going to have to be troubleshooted to know why. And these intake air temperature sensors are what's called a thermistor, which is basically a resistor whose resistance changes as the temperature changes. So if you go to test one of these, you could test it basically like a regular resistor, but you'd want to see if the values changed as the temperature changes. And one thing about these sensors is that they can't be built in with other sensors, like the mass airflow sensor, or the manifold absolute pressure sensor, or they can't be on their own. It's really going to vary. For example, here's a 2007 Ford Focus, and that air intake temperature sensor is built in with the manifold absolute pressure sensor, and it'll be located on the side of the engine. It's really going to vary on its location, and if it's built into other sensors or things like this. And so for this reason, it's a good idea to get a diagram where all the sensors are located on your particular engine, because it can be different depending on the year, the make, the model, things like this. So first thing to do, if possible, is get a diagram where all the sensors are located on your particular engine, because there can be differences, and it will make it easier to go and find it. And so what are some possible causes of a P0113 code? Well, the first thing that's going to cause is that sensor just failed, just gone bad, and just needs to be replaced. Quite often with these sensors, especially if it's built in with like the mass airflow sensor or something like that, is that you can get some mass airflow sensor cleaner and you can just clean them up. And quite often that works, that they just got dirty and the dirt and grime is just throwing that sensor off. So you can't get some mass airflow sensor cleaner, and you can try to clean it up, clear the code, and see if the code comes back. Of course, that sensor might have failed. It might just need to be replaced. You can test it if you want to. The basics of how you test one of these is that you use a multimeter, you set it to ohms so that you can check resistance, and then you apply heat to it like with a hot hair dryer or something like that, and you see if the resistance changes. There's some good YouTube videos on how you go about testing these sensors, but you can test it if you want to. The next thing that could cause this is the wiring going to the sensor. If there's anything wrong inside the wiring, like an open, short, bad connection, then this is going to cause the same symptoms as a bad sensor. So be sure to check out the wiring and see if you see any physical damage to it or anything like that. And make sure the connector is on there good and making good contact. You can't test those wires to see if there's any open or short or anything like that. If you do go to check those wirings, you're very likely going to have to get a wiring diagram or schematic for your particular vehicle, since again there will be differences. For example, here pins 1 and 2 would be for the intake air temperature sensors, pins 3 and 4 would be for the mass airflow sensor. But the next thing that could cause this problem is that there's some kind of issue inside the wiring. And so that's basically it. I just wanted to give a basic overview of how you go about fixing a vehicle with the P0113 code. If you have anything to add, please comment down below. If you have any questions, ask me. I'll try to answer them. If this video helps you, please click like, please click subscribe, and have a good day.